What's going on, guys? Bexio back, and today we got a brand new video with Bitcoin and the bear market. Maybe here, probably not, but we'll see how everything goes. We all know macros are completely just going crazy. The Federal Reserve had a good meeting, and the market and everything rallied, and Bitcoin even rallied to 40K almost. And then everything just completely dumped and puked the next day, and we're continuing that downward spiral from now. But a couple of things for Bitcoin that maybe could be a little bit of a problem. And first thing is the Bitcoin chart, which we were in this kind of wedge here. You can see we bounced off down here up to the top, came down, went back almost to the top, kind of hovered here, went back to the top, back to the bottom recently, where we were there for a few days. And then we had the good meeting from the Fed and everything, a giant green candlestick all the way to just over $40,000. And then a massive dump yesterday and continuing that dump today. But basically kind of went down to this line here. So pretty much touching it twice, interacting twice with it at 35.4 and, bouncing off. So maybe that could be a good sign. But the biggest bad sign is that we are out of this like wedge here. So what we were in for many months, a few months at this point, actually broke out of, and now we are well below it here. We raised up to the 36K here, hit our heads and came back down. But we're out of the wedge, which is problem number one. So what is going on with the price? What's the future going to go? Short term, these things can try and add up and have price movement and everything. But right now, we know that the Federal Reserve and interest rates is a problem, and inflation is a problem. We know macros of supply chain stuff, those are still problems. Earnings from companies in the stock market, still problems. There's a lot of things that are not looking great for either stocks and Bitcoin, because obviously things flowing on in the economy, happening in the economy, is going to affect Bitcoin. We can't pretend that none of it's going to affect Bitcoin when we have a lot of institutional adoption and investors now where Bitcoin is just going to start reacting to these more macro things that would normally only be involved in the stock market but could reflect Bitcoin, especially like big tech earnings. If those are bad, Bitcoin is, a lot viewed just like big tech and risky, so it could sell off on bad earnings like that, which it kind of did when big tech was bad. But we see it doesn't always follow the stock market, but for now we might be in that bubble. Everything here on the left all red. I mean, we have Chevron, Exxon, so oil is green, and then AMD somehow made it green today. But everything else, literally, Apple finished green too. That's nice for Apple. But everything else, all red, nothing looking good. So just a tough spot in the market, and a lot of things outside of any Bitcoin control. Like anything happening in Bitcoin doesn't reflect the price of Bitcoin right now. And if we look at this chart, it's not very good either. Although it is holding up better. I looked at it before and it was projected to drop way more. This is worldwide. If we go to the United States, it changes a little bit. So you see a more drastic fall off for Bitcoin. So this is just searches for Bitcoin. Obviously 2017, absolute mania, went to 100 and then came down in the bear market time. It was around, let's say, 5 to 10. It kind of hovered around that area. And then the new bull market here, it came back up to 50s, kind of had its little spikes. But when it came down earlier in the year, it actually was hovering around 20 range, around this 20 range, which was higher than where we were before. So showing more interest in Bitcoin, in sustaining with it, keeping with the news, doing all of that. So it was a good sign. But now we kind of see it kind of withering away. It's at 12 right now compared to bear market stuff with 5 and 10. So, we don't really want to get down here. But is this a leading sign of people losing interest? And if people are losing interest, that's less people involved in the market buying Bitcoin, doing anything involved with Bitcoin. And when there's less people like that, there's less demand, the price goes down. So could this lead to a bear market? Maybe. If you go worldwide, though, it actually is a way better looking story. So worldwide is about the same. We'll call 5 to 10 in the bear market area and right now it's at 17 even after this drop, and it's still in a pretty good place. So worldwide, still pretty good. In the United States, not as good. And does people in the US have more money to be able to put into Bitcoin, and that has more of an effect? Could very well be, but at least Bitcoin is a worldwide global asset. So from this, maybe the bear market could be coming in, but ultimately it's still at a better place now than it was during a previous bear market. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it's not all bad news, as the Bitcoin hash rate has been smashing all-time highs lately. We saw it recently when it rallied to a 223, and then it broke it again at 227. It's just rallying up and to the right. The network's growing. Miners are mining Bitcoin. The network is getting more secure. It's just this types of moves and these fundamental facts of Bitcoin aren't reflected in the price right now because of so much fear in the markets of all financial markets, in stocks and in crypto, everything. So it's not going to be able to be reflected, even though the network's growing, everything looks good. If you look at raw values, let's just see what they look like. Yeah, just continuing up and to the right, you can see it's just new all-time high after all-time high after all-time high here, just kind of getting up, and it seems like it's a little move up again. 30-day, just more rounded, and you can see just a very, very steep move up here. Everything just looks pretty good for Bitcoin. For the mining, for the hash rate, fundamentally, it's still looking all right. One of the reasons we might actually be in a better spot right now and not having a more drastic sell-off than what we've seen currently in Bitcoin, even though it was pretty drastic for the last couple days, but compared to things like Netflix, which is down 70%, or all these tech stocks that have dropped very harsh percentages, Bitcoin has kept up, and it might be thanks to the Luna Foundation, as you see right here. This was yesterday. They bought 37,863 more Bitcoin worth $1.5 billion for their UST stablecoin reserves. And that makes Luna now holds more Bitcoin than Tesla, which is kind of crazy. And they just bought the $1.5 billion yesterday, but so they would have around $2 billion right now, maybe even a little bit more than that. But they have been stacking Bitcoin. It's been a major buyer in the space for a long time now, and they could be a reason that Bitcoin isn't collapsing in price more, because obviously they have huge buy orders of billions of dollars, even hundreds of millions that they were doing before. So maybe, they're kind of keeping the price up a little bit. So that's at least a good thing. We see at least someone has a big demand, and it's holding the price pretty well. And we know stocks and Bitcoin have been pretty closely correlated lately with a lot of the news, just macro stuff outside of either stocks controls or Bitcoin control. It's all just kind of been macro things. Right here, we can see RSI for the S&P 500 and Bitcoin now together in the oversold zone, where historically fairly rapid a bottom form. So a rapid bottom forms at these levels, and we can kind of see going back, once you get to oversold, you see here this orange line, we get oversold. It actually turns out to be a bottom, starts a move up in the S&P, and also Bitcoin trades kind of sideways for a little bit there, but it does start a move up and a nice little move up for Bitcoin. Again, this was the 2020 crash right here, and you see going to oversold, and it was exactly a bottom and starts a move up here. And right now we have it again at going into oversold. So this doesn't mean this is the bottom and it can't go lower. It could go a bit lower and keep, trending down for a few weeks, a few months. But eventually, we're already oversold, and it usually marks a bottom for Bitcoin and the S&P. They've been pretty correlated lately, so maybe we start trading kind of sideways around 35,000 to 40,000, and eventually we start to trickle in more demand. Once you do that, the price has to go up to reflect it. So historically, it's been a pretty good indicator that there's a bottom at least forming. And we'll wrap this video up with time flies, because we are already 50% of the way to the next Bitcoin halving. So halfway there to the next halving, where obviously the supply will get cut in half yet again of incoming supply, and we will have to see the reflection in the price. The question here, though, is Bitcoin maturing where these price moves or these halvings are going to be priced in? Is it to that point yet? Or is it not possible to price it in because of the event happening of slashing incoming supply, where that doesn't shock the market until it happens? It's just going to be kind of interesting to see what happens with it if Bitcoin starts to move up before the halving, tries to like time it or price it in and see if that works, or if it just does what Bitcoin normally does, kind of maybe starts going up a little bit, but then the halving happens and a period of time after that has a massive move up. So ultimately, the price chart on Bitcoin not looking the best, and interest in Bitcoin not looking great either. But fundamentally and historically, with even RSI stuff, it's actually looking pretty good. Like it could be oversold, as well as the network is growing, adoption's growing. We had the second country adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, and now we are just looking towards macro events that are eventually going to be moved past. They are not going to be here forever, but they could definitely have an impact short term, even for the rest of this year, for the next 6 to 18 months, even. And then at that point, after we get over these recession fears or the recession itself, Bitcoin can just kind of go back to trading. Nobody is looking at Bitcoin and thinks that it's going to go away, that it's a scam, and that it has the possibility to disappear. I think in 2017, that was the last time people ever even thought of Bitcoin as it could possibly go away and go to zero. I don't think anybody thinks that anymore. That's going to do it for this video, guys. As always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in my next video.